The betrayal that shattered our family. My wife left us for another man, then tried to come back with his child. Imagine the woman who abandoned you and your children returning after years, asking for a second chance, with another man's child by her side. This is the story of betrayal, heartbreak, and the agonizing decision to move forward. In today's video, we dive into the deeply emotional story of a father who rebuilt his life after his wife left him and their daughters for another man. Years later, she returns, begging for forgiveness, but can trust ever be rebuilt after such a betrayal? We had been married for 10 years. The first few years were full of passion and promise, but over time, Angela grew restless. It started small, complaints about money, our house, the monotony of raising kids. Then came the late nights, the work events that lasted until well past midnight. I tried to ignore the growing distance between us, hoping it was just a phase, something we could work through. I knew Angela wasn't happy. I wasn't blind to the fact that her frustrations had been bubbling beneath the surface for a long time. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have imagined, was that she was capable of walking out on her family. I never thought it would happen to us, but then again, no one ever does. I started noticing the small things first. The way Angela would quickly tuck her phone away when I entered the room, the secretive smile she'd flash at her screen when she thought I wasn't looking. She'd become defensive whenever I asked about her day, brushing me off as if my curiosity were an annoyance. My gut told me something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. I loved her. I believed in our family, and I wasn't willing to let go of that belief without a fight. Then came the late nights. Work meetings, she'd say, catching up with friends. The excuses piled up. I tried to be patient. I trusted her. At least I wanted to trust her. But deep down, the doubts gnawed at me. And then one night, it all came crashing down. It was a Tuesday night, and Angela was out late again. She had given me the usual excuses, something about meeting an old friend from work. The girls were in bed, and I was sitting on the couch, staring at the clock, wondering when she'd be home. My curiosity got the best of me. I went into our bedroom, picked up her phone from the nightstand, and unlocked it. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to know. My stomach churned as I scrolled through her messages, and then I found it. Dozens of texts from Sean, her childhood friend. The messages were unmistakable. They were intimate, affectionate, full of words I hadn't heard from Angela in years. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I could barely breathe. When Angela came home that night, I was waiting for her. I confronted her with the messages. I wanted to hear her deny it, to tell me that I had misunderstood. But she didn't. "I deserve to be happy," she said, her voice cold and detached. "I'm seeing Sean. I haven't been happy in a long time." Those words hit me harder than I thought possible. Not only had she been lying to me, but she was blaming me for it. She didn't even apologize. She didn't seem to care about the devastation she had caused. The next morning, Angela packed her things. She didn't look back. She didn't even say goodbye to Emily and Sophie, who were still sleeping upstairs. I sat at the kitchen table, numb, watching as she loaded her suitcase into the car. I couldn't comprehend how a mother could walk away from her children so easily. How could she turn her back on us without a second thought? I wanted to scream at her, to make her understand the damage she was doing, but I was paralyzed by shock. The door slammed shut behind her, and just like that, she was gone. The hardest part came next, telling our daughters that their mother wasn't coming home. Emily was 8, and Sophie was 5. How do you explain to children that their mother chose to leave, that she didn't want to be a part of their lives anymore? Emily asked a million questions, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Where's Mommy? When is she coming back?" I had no good answers. All I could say was that Mommy wasn't coming back, that it wasn't their fault, that I would always be there for them. Sophie didn't understand at all. She cried herself to sleep for weeks, calling out for her mother in the middle of the night. It broke my heart every time. I did my best to hold it together for them, but the truth was, I was falling apart inside. I felt like I had failed them. I had failed as a husband and as a father. I had trusted Angela, and she had destroyed our family. The divorce was swift and brutal. Angela wanted to cut all ties. She was eager to start her new life with Sean, and she didn't seem to care about the mess she was leaving behind. She signed away her parental rights without hesitation, abandoning Emily and Sophie without a second thought. It was as if we had never meant anything to her. For the next few years, I focused on rebuilding. It wasn't easy. There were days when the weight of it all felt unbearable. But I had to stay strong for my daughters. They were all I had left, and I wasn't going to let them down. We found a new rhythm. Just the three of us. We made new memories, filled the house with laughter, and for a while, it felt like we were finally moving on. The ghost of Angela's betrayal still lingered, but it wasn't as suffocating as it had once been. But just when I thought we had left the past behind, Angela came back. 5 years had passed since Angela walked out on us. 5 years of silence, of no contact, no visits, no phone calls. I had no idea where she was, and frankly, I didn't care. We had built a life without her, and I was content with that. Then one day, out of the blue, there she was, standing on my doorstep, holding the hand of a small boy who couldn't have been more than 3 years old. The boy wasn't mine, he was Sean's. It was written all over his face. Angela looked different. She was worn, tired, with dark circles under her eyes, and a sadness I had never seen before. "I made a mistake," she said, her voice trembling. "I want to come home. I want to be a family again." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything she had done, after abandoning her children, betraying me, and starting a new life with another man, she had the nerve to show up now, with another man's child in tow, asking for forgiveness? My initial shock quickly turned into anger. "How dare you?" I said, my voice shaking with rage. "You think you can just show up here after all these years and act like nothing happened? You left us. You left your daughters. You abandoned them without a second thought, and now you want to come back?" Angela tried to explain, her eyes welling up with tears. "Sean and I, we're not together anymore. I made a terrible mistake, and I realize that now. I know I hurt you, I know I hurt the girls, but I want to make things right. Please, I want to be their mother again." Her words stung, but they also rang hollow. How could she even say that? After all the pain she had caused, after leaving me to pick up the pieces of our broken family, she thought she could just walk back into our lives and fix things? "No," I said, my voice firm. "You're not their mother anymore. You gave up that right when you left. The girls don't need you. They've been better off without you." Angela didn't back down. She dropped to her knees, sobbing, clutching her son tightly. "Please, I'm begging you," she cried. "I've lost everything. I have nothing left. I just want to be part of their lives again. I want to see my daughters. Please, let me explain to them. Let me be a mother to them again." I stared down at her, feeling a mixture of anger, pity, and disgust. She was broken, no doubt about it, but that didn't mean I could forget the years of silence, the abandonment, the heartache she had caused my girls. My priority was to protect them, not to give in to her pleas for redemption. I had heard enough. "Get out," I said through gritted teeth. "You're not welcome here." Angela left, but not before making one last desperate plea for forgiveness. I slammed the door behind her, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe what had just happened. How dare she try to come back after everything she had done? How could she expect forgiveness after abandoning us so easily? That night, I lay awake, replaying the confrontation in my mind. Part of me felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I had stood my ground. I had protected my daughters, but another part of me felt conflicted. I had seen the pain in Angela's eyes, the regret, the desperation. Was she truly remorseful, or was she just trying to undo the mess she had made of her life? Just as I was starting to put the confrontation behind me, I discovered a new betrayal. One I hadn't seen coming. My parents, who had always supported me after Angela left, had been secretly in contact with her. They had known where she was all along. They had spoken to her, listened to her sob stories, and had even encouraged her to try to reconcile with me. When I confronted them, they tried to justify their actions. "She's still the mother of your children," my father said. "People make mistakes. You have to give her a second chance." I was stunned. After everything Angela had done, after the pain and abandonment she had caused, how could they take her side? How could they betray me like this? I knew I couldn't trust my parents anymore. They had gone behind my back, disregarding everything I had gone through. They had opened the door for Angela to come back into our lives, and I couldn't allow that. It was one of the hardest decisions I had ever made, but I knew it was the right one. I cut ties with my parents. I had to protect Emily and Sophie from any further pain, and that meant keeping Angela and anyone who sided with her out of our lives. I filed for a restraining order against Angela, making it clear that she wasn't allowed to contact me or the girls. I blocked my parents from seeing the girls too. It was painful, but I knew it was necessary. In the years that followed, I focused on building a life that was centered on love and stability for my daughters. Emily and Sophie had been through so much, but they were resilient. They grew into strong, compassionate young women, and I couldn't have been prouder of them. Angela became a distant memory, someone we rarely talked about. She had made her choice, and we had made ours. We moved forward, stronger as a family, free from the toxic influence of the people who had once betrayed us. This story is a reminder that sometimes forgiveness isn't the answer. Some betrayals cut too deep, and the best thing you can do is protect your heart, protect your family, and move forward without looking back. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more real-life, emotional stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today.